Well, hello, everybody. Thank you for joining myself and Amelia this fine afternoon. If you're here in Utah, it's a beautiful day today, sunny and blue skies and warm weather. Finally, it looks like spring is settling in, and Amelia and I were just talking about how much we're enjoying that. Both of us we both live in mountains, and it's so nice to be able to walk out your back door and take in the scenery and breathe in the buds and the flowers, and see the animals and all that kind of stuff. It's been beautiful. So welcome here to Tech Beat. This is a bi-monthly segment that I do, a place where we try to create content to help leaders learn, innovate, and grow, and bring on really great, interesting, engaging, innovative leaders that that contribute to our community. Couple of really quick housekeeping items. We will have an open Q&A session while we're here on here this hour. So if you have any questions or comments, whatever platform you are joining us from, feel free to leave those comments or questions in that platform. Amelia and I should be able to see those. We'll try to get through some of those throughout the hour, or leave some of them towards the end of the hour. Any questions you might have for Amelia along the way, or myself, we always like taking questions. It's a lot of fun. So my name is Earl Foote. I am founder, CEO of Nexus IT. We are a 22-year-old outsourced white glove IT support, cybersecurity, and cloud services firm based here in northern Utah and serving northern Utah and well beyond. We have a fair amount of clients that we serve across the nation and some internationally as well. I quickly want to give everybody an update that we will have over the coming months joining us on this Tech Beat segments. We will have Trina Limpert, who is the CEO of Rise Next. That I believe is May 24th, if I'm not mistaken. Trina and I Trina's dedicated a 25-year career to really to diversity, equity, and inclusivity initiatives within organizations. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. Should be a really great segment. Dan Beck, co-founder of 401 Go, is going to join me, and Christy Holt, founder, CEO of Vibonics, also joining me on upcoming episodes. So stay tuned for information on those. But let's get to the guest of the hour. I'm so happy and pleased to have Amelia Wilcox with me today. Amelia and I have fairly recently become friends over the last year and a half, and I've really enjoyed my interactions with Amelia, and certainly watching her journey and learning from her. So, official intro for Amelia. Amelia is the founder and CEO of Zenovate. Zenovate is a high-growth mental health platform that provides the easiest way to understand and manage employee mental well-being. The app provides HIPAA-compliant real-time employee data to companies and on-demand mental health services for employees. From teletherapy with licensed counselors to comprehensive proactive care, Zenovate is a single platform to support the well-being of the whole employee anytime, anywhere. Prior to starting Zenovate, Amelia spent 15 years in the health and wellness industry, specializing in massage, fitness, and nutrition. Amelia has been named to the 40 Under 40 and Inc. 5000 list, and spends her free time mentoring other female founders and raising her 3 daughters in Midway, Utah. Amelia, welcome, and thank you so much for joining me here on Tech Beat.
Thanks for having me, Earl. Excited to be here, and I'm excited Christy Holt's coming on too. She's a friend of mine as well, so yeah. I'll be tuning into that one.
Awesome. Christy's fantastic. She's a lot of fun. Certainly very interesting, product and application that she's built as well, along the health and wellness vein, obviously. So let's dig into your story a little bit, Amelia. Why don't you tell us a little bit how you ended up getting into this zany industry of entrepreneurship, and tell us a little bit about your journey. I know you had a company that was thriving and doing really well, and then COVID came along and disrupted the whole thing. So give us a little bit of insight about that whole story.
Yeah, so my entrepreneurship journey it really started when I was pretty young. Things like selling cookies at school and, just my dad could get these cookies for wholesale. I'd take them to school, sell them for like double the price. That's kind of when I figured out like, oh, I really like finding ways to make money, finding ways to, serve a need, if you can consider something like cookies a need for middle schoolers. I've kind of been into it my whole life. I have memories of making Christmas cards by hand with my mom and selling those to like friends and neighbors and things like that. So we've always had like little things going on most of my childhood. I got into massage therapy when I was about 19. I worked at a spa and was super attracted to that profession just because it was really like you can work for yourself, make money when you want to make money. I wanted to have a family, and it's a flexible kind of career where you can work and take care of your kids at home. I had a little home office that I did massage in like through all three of my daughters, young years, and I would just massage while they were napping. When my husband and I got married, he worked at a wholesaler, and they were an outdoor wholesaler here in Utah. And we had the idea of, well, we'll just sell outdoor gear online and it'll be super easy. We'll buy the stuff and then we'll resell it. And so that was really my first official kind of entrepreneurship journey, where it was just my husband and I, and we just, purchased gear and things like that. And then we would turn around and sell it on our website. So I learned how to build a website. I learned how to manage inventory. I learned about, shipping costs, which in the beginning I was just like, we had like super low shipping. And then you figure out like, oh, some of these things are really expensive to ship, and how to figure that out. Learned about like how to negotiate with retailers and things like that. So a lot of things that I was able to take into like my next ventures in my life that I was able to experience during that first venture. And we did that for about 4 years, and then the recession hit and people stopped buying new coats and new tents and things like that because they were just out of money. Or out of work, or I don't know if you remember 2008. It was worse than what we've experienced in COVID as far as recessions. I mean, here the home prices are still going up, and there's still tons of employment, and you're still competing for employees, which has been really shocking to me.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Side note. But yeah, that's kind of how I got started. When the recession hit, we ended up being left with $60,000 in debt, and just not really a way to get out of it. We had bought like a home with a home equity, or not home equity, but one of those adjustable rate mortgages. And then like all of them jumped up all of a sudden. And we were like, well, now we can't afford our house. And my husband was working 3 jobs. He was driving a concrete truck and was a firefighter and a security guard, like on the weekends. So he was basically never home. I was doing like 5 hours of massage a day, and there really wasn't any way I could do more than that. It's really hard on your body, like having wrist pain and back pain. And so I was just kind of stuck. And I was scared because I was going to lose everything. At that time, it felt like losing everything. We were young. We had like 2.5 kids at the time. And I just tried to figure out a way to get out of that situation. And I wanted to do something I was passionate about. I wasn't really passionate about outdoor gear. Tents don't really excite me. And so
Speak for yourself.
What'd you say?
Speak for yourself. I was packing up tents last night for a weekend excursion.
Nice. Yeah. My husband does all that stuff. I actually, even if we go camping, I'm like, I don't like helping set any of it up or anything. So if he wants to go camping, he's got to do all of it. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to do something I was like really into that really I felt like would make a difference. And I've always been really passionate about helping people. I kind of found my groove in massage, helping people post-accident. So if you've been in a car accident, you're struggling with like chronic neck pain or lower back pain, that's why people came to me. And that was really fulfilling for me. So I wondered if there was just like some way I could scale massage. People open spas. they hire massage therapists and stuff. And I'd worked in the spa world and I knew it wasn't really like what I wanted to do. So I just kind of came up with the idea of like, how about I can sell this to companies? How cool would it be if companies would buy this as a benefit for their employees, and then the company would pay for it and the employees would get free massages at work? And so I was super scrappy. I think I altogether paid like $1,200 to start the company. It was called Incorporate Massage. And I like traded with one of my friends who was a graphic designer, and he made the logo and put together some brochures for us. And I just massaged him and his wife to pay for it. And I had a friend who did embroidery, and she like put the logos on uniform shirts for our first massage therapists in trade for massage. And I had a friend that was a web designer, and I massaged him and his wife to put our website together. And just like really scrappy because I didn't know if it was going to get legs, and we didn't have any money. We had all this debt and like couldn't pay our bills. So, you know, my husband thought I was kind of crazy. He's like, "Oh, you want to start a business? We can't pay for groceries. How are you going to start a business?" But I was just like, we got to do something. I can't just sit there and like wait for life to happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah. So I decided I was just going to try and throw it out there. So I just basically went to all my friends and I was like, can you take this to work and ask your boss if like they're interested? And I'd sent it out with a bunch of my friends, and my friends were so awesome too, totally giving it to their person in HR. And I just got a phone call one day, a few weeks later, from a law firm here in Salt Lake. And they said, "Hey, we need 3 massage therapists for Administrative Professionals Day. It's 6 weeks away." And I was like, "Oh yeah, we can totally do that." Like, they're like, "What do you charge?" And I was like, I had to come up with a number like on the spot. So I like named a price that was like low enough that they could would say yes. So I could at least have one client under my belt. And so I got that booked, and then I had to go find some people to do the job. And so I just started meeting with all these massage therapists locally at like a Starbucks and doing like these Starbucks interviews just to find some people that I felt like could uphold what I wanted our brand to feel like and who wouldn't just like walk off. Massage therapists, they're like plenty of awesome, amazing massage therapists, but there are a lot of people in the profession that are kind of flaky. So I was really paranoid about somebody like saying yes and then not showing up or leaving in the middle of a job or something. So that's kind of how it started. I learned how to hire massage therapists. We grew pretty aggressively about like our 3rd year in. So this is 2010 when I first started. And by like 2014, I took the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses class, which is kind of like a little mini MBA, which was amazing because I didn't know how to read a balance sheet or what a profit and loss statement was or anything like that. So I filled in all those little gaps of where I had no education. So I mean, I didn't even graduate from college. So I had, this background in health and nutrition, fitness and all that was like half baked. I also have a few years of computer programming that I didn't finish, but have, some experience with. But I didn't have the business education behind me to know how to really grow a company. So that was really necessary for me to be able to take the company to the next level. So after that, we got kind of one of our first big clients, which was here in Utah, Entrada, hired us. And then they had an office in Dallas, and they were like, "Hey, can we have you do our massages for our team in Dallas, or do we need to hire someone locally?" And of course I'm like, "No, we'll do it. I don't know how we're going to do it, but like, you're not going to." And so that's kind of the next big milestone for us was we had to figure out how we could hire, interview, train, manage people virtually. And this is 2014. This is not the COVID years right now where everyone is working remotely. And we didn't have tools like Zoom and stuff back then. So we had to develop a way to phone screen, video screen. And they would actually submit a video of them doing a 5-minute massage and send that in to us. And we had a team that was made up of massage therapists that would rate them and give them a score in these different categories based on their technique. So, and then we'd accept people above a certain number and then not accept people below a certain number. So we actually only accepted 12% of applicants. So 88% of applicants would be rejected. So we kind of had the cream of the crop, and then we were able to copy and paste that recruiting strategy and that recruiting plan across basically eventually over the entire United States, Canada, and Mexico. So if you fast forward to March of 2020, we had 1,200 massage therapists, and we had about 4,000 companies that we worked with providing massage. Some of them were, Massage Mondays where we were in the office all the time, and other ones just had us in maybe for Nurses Week at the hospital and things like that. So that was kind of our path. And we were on track to blow up like all of our numbers for Q1. I mean, we did basically 50% of our 2019 revenue in Q1 of 2020.
Wow.
Fabulous growth trajectory. We were so excited because we were just like, this is it. This is the year, man. This is the year we're making it. We were going to like raise a Series A, and we were ready to really scale. We were planning on rolling out like a new version of our platform that was going to basically be anything that you want to bring into the office on site, you would use our app. And it was like, if you're bringing in, dental cleanings, or you're bringing on-site yoga in, or whatever, like that was kind of our vision and the direction we were headed. And we had invested so much time and money in this path. And then it was like COVID came out, and not only was that path no longer viable, it was like our entire business died over the course of 10 days. It just went from, we were on track to do 6 million. It just went down to 0. We had a 98% revenue reduction. So yeah, basically we died.
98%.
Yeah.
Jeez.
It was pretty gut-wrenching, actually. I had to furlough my entire team. I remember
it's so hard too, right?
Yeah, it was really hard. I just had to tell everybody, like, we don't know how long this is going to last, like, to make sure the company is still here if this lasts a month. At the time, I thought, like, this is a month. That's like my thought process. So if we wanted to still be here, we had to like stop the bleeding right now. And we didn't know how we were going to make any money or what we were going to do. So at that point, I just decided I was going to let myself grieve for a little bit. So I spent about a week just feeling really depressed. I'm feeling like, we had just built a house, like our dream house. We'd spent like 3 years saving up money to buy the lot, then saving up the money for the architects to design it, saving up the money for the construction loan, just like piece by piece. And the house was like halfway done. We ended up moving in August of 2020, but I'm like, whoa, we just built our dream house. We're going to lose that. It was kind of like 2008 all over again, but way worse because it was like stolen from me. It wasn't like I made a bunch of bad business decisions. It was like, almost like I felt like, hey, I've earned this. I deserve this. It's not even my fault. I didn't do something wrong. I felt robbed, So I really did take that time to grieve and feel that loss and the fear and the anxiety, over, my husband's a firefighter, and firefighters, I don't know if you guys know this, they don't make a lot of money. So, he works really hard, and we've got 3 kids to feed, and, just this house that we were hoping we could afford to finish building. And it was really, really scary. It was much, much scarier for me than that 2008 crash and everything that happened there. So do you want me to keep going, or do you have any questions?
Just maybe, key on a couple of things. So, and thank you. This has been fascinating, to kind of hear the whole story, firsthand in more detail. I can't say, how it just even call it before COVID, pre-2020, how inspiring your story is, Amelia. And I think that I see oftentimes when you have conversations that there are misconceptions about what entrepreneurship is and who entrepreneurs are. And there are assumptions by non-entrepreneurs that most entrepreneurs somehow have superpowers and they were destined to do what they're doing, and they They're massively educated, and when the reality is the majority of entrepreneurship is not glamorous. The majority of it is being willing to not be comfortable. You expressed you weren't happy, when 2008, really left you in some difficult financial situations, and that's super common for entrepreneurs. Like, we try and we try again, and there's things that work and things that don't work, and some of those things that don't work, they put us in some really difficult situations, right? But I think that it's really amazing to hear, as you said, like, you weren't comfortable just sitting there and being a victim of your circumstances. You were like, I'm going to change this. I'm going to figure out how I change our future and our destiny. And I think that fighting spirit is really what separates most entrepreneurs, no matter what their background is. Sure, you've got entrepreneurs that came from privilege and they went to Yale and they went to Harvard, and they've got a network that's massively connected and everything. That wasn't me. I didn't come from that. I generally say that, everything that I've built, I've had to grind, day in and day out to build it. And I think that's generally what the massive differentiating factors are for entrepreneurs, is that we're generally people who aren't willing to just be comfortable with the status quo. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, I totally agree, but it also works against us. So it's what I have learned from therapy myself is that our greatest superpowers are also our greatest weaknesses. So this sense of I'm not going to sit here and wait for things to happen to me. I'm going to take control and go after things in my life also negatively affects me in that even when things are good, I have a hard time just sitting still and enjoying it. We win an award, right? And we're on the Inc. 5000. And in my head, I'm like, oh man, we have to do even more next year to be on this list again. Or we're going to get kicked off. I have a hard time just stopping and being this feels really good. And I'm just enjoying it. You never get there. You're never oh, I have arrived. Yeah. Now I can kick my feet up. It's we're always pushing to that next milestone. And maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm just talking about my own personal experience.
I don't think it's just you. I'm the same exact way. And I hear it from a lot of my friends as well. You have those awards and accolades and, milestones that come along, and you enjoy them for about 2.5 seconds. And then you go back to work. What's next? What do we got to do? What's the next level? And you just keep pushing. And yeah, you're right. Oftentimes I think it's a blessing and it's a curse, because, you don't take the time to be present and really savor those moments sometimes. At least I have a hard time doing that. And It sounds like you do as well.
I think it's all entrepreneurs. I don't think I've met anybody that's good at that yet. Yeah. If we go back to that story, I'm in this spot where I feel like everything I've worked for 10 years has just suddenly been ripped out from under me, and I've lost everything. I feel sad about it for a while, and kind of what you were saying about how entrepreneurs are able to just dig in and grind that out. And that's what makes a successful entrepreneur. It really is 90% hard work. Yeah. Millions of people have amazing ideas, but it's the hard work and the ability to grind that out to make it a reality that sets an idea apart from actual success. Right. So, it's funny. One of my advisors will remind me of that if I'm worried about somebody has an idea or somebody wants to execute on what we're doing. And he's like 90% of people won't do the work. So just, don't focus on that, because it's rare. In fact, I had kind of gone from, in the beginning, I was the one manually texting a massage therapist, getting them to take a shift, manually scheduling that shift in the calendar. I did payroll. I wrote checks, handwritten checks, and I would put a handwritten thank you card in every single check that I would send our massage therapist in the beginning. Eventually I couldn't do that anymore, but
you can't do that with 1,200 checks.
Yeah, I know. I was willing to sit down and actually do that work and make it a positive experience. So everything I've been doing in this new iteration of the company, I've been there before. So it's easier, it's faster. I already know the answers. I have the same team that built the last company. And so it's not like I have to like a normal startup would have to go find all their co-founders and find their employees. And I'm in a way, we're like a startup, but we're also a company that's been around for 11 years. So we already have the playbooks, we already have the team processes, the technology, all these things. But it is a weird sensation to go from, like, I'd grown the company from I'm doing all the work to hiring people. And we were at the point where we had an executive team, we had managers and directors in this like middle kind of management level, and then we had frontline employees. And so our team of full-time employees was about 30 on our admin team. And then, so my job was really more CEO-ish at that point. Like back in March, it was like, yeah, I get to make decisions, I pull reports, I interact with the board, I do fundraising, and not a lot involved into the day-to-day, and it was a whole new skill set I had to learn. Learning how to manage and scale is totally different than learning how to like start a company. And so yeah, I had to learn all those skills, and I was in this place where it was like really fun because I was like out of the day-to-day and getting to focus on the big picture. And so to go all the way back to that very first idea stage where literally everyone's furloughed, so there's no one else to do the work but me. And I had one of my team members basically worked for stock. So she was still working full-time, managing our legacy clients for massage, like trying to figure out like, can we give them alternative services so they keep paying us? Do we need to freeze their accounts? But business went to zero, but our like support needs went way, way up. And so one of my executives, my director of operations, she was so awesome to just work for basically stock. And so she could man all of that. So she's also went from managing a team to like, now she's the one doing all the actual work, sending each individual email, having each call with each one of our clients, because the cancellations were coming in like crazy, right? We had I think we had like $400,000 on the books in March, and we got through like 250,000 of it had happened before COVID really hit the US and things shut down. So we had like $150,000 of stuff that was scheduled that had to be canceled one by one. And so I had to go back to, I am the one picking up the phone and talking to clients and trying to figure out if we can sell them something. I am trying to figure out, how we're going to pivot this company. We've got an awesome platform. We've spent millions of dollars and 10 years developing that will allow us to deliver anything on site to anyone. In fact, we had looked at different options. On our list was things like, can we be Amazon delivery drivers? Like, can we partner with Amazon and help them with their deliveries? Because we have all these massage therapists that have cars that want to work, and there's nothing for them to do. So that was one of the things we looked at. We even looked at like, can we walk dogs? We have an awesome logistics platform that we can like send people to any site and track them while they're moving. And we just like brainstormed everything. We're like, what can we do? The first project we worked on, we actually worked with the Test Utah project, and we were like the original version of like the scheduling system for scheduling your tests. So that kind of kept us busy for a minute while we were still trying to figure out how we could pivot. And so what we came up with after talking to our clients, and then we sent a survey out to our massage therapists, and we said, what else can you guys do? Here's a list of like other services in the wellness space that we think we can deliver virtually. Is anybody licensed to do any of these things? So we came up with a list of 6 things and about 12 people. And we just tried to see if any of our existing clients would like let us do life coaching with their employees, yoga, meditation. We learned a couple things really quickly. One of the things we learned is like group yoga classes do not translate into the kind of revenue we were making with massage, because massage was a 1-to-1. If we're charging, $90 an hour, we can do 4 employees an hour. It's whatever that is, $24 or $25 or whatever, per employee. You do a group yoga class, I think we were charging like $50 or $60, and it was like, there'd be 100 people in there. We're never going to make money doing that. And so we realized that pretty quickly. The other thing that we realized is in those 1-to-1 sessions, our life coaches were getting all these questions around like substance abuse and depression. And they were coming to me saying like, hey, we're just life coaches. We are not equipped to do counseling. These people need professional help, and we need to refer them somewhere. So my next thought was, okay, well, let's find a referral partner. And I just got on the phone and just started meeting with clinic after clinic after clinic and asking these people like, hey, can we start sending you referrals? Because we have all these people that need help. All these people, like maybe 10, but we just wanted to make sure we were doing right by the people we were serving and giving them the tools they needed. But yeah, every counseling office, mental health office we called, they just all said, hey, we're backed up for 6 to 8 weeks. Like, we have no bandwidth. We can't help you. And so that was kind of my light bulb moment where I was like, okay, there's this huge demand. Like, everyone is struggling mentally and emotionally right now. And there's no one, there's like no one to meet that demand. Like, people are booked out weeks in advance. So that's kind of when the light bulb went off in my head. And I thought, you know what? We already have a platform that can manage licensing by state, which counseling is managed by each state. And so was massage. And I'm like, we already have that system built. It's already got a killer scheduling system. Like, we have a lot of these pieces already. Can we take our existing platform and tweak it to offer just a new service type of like therapy virtually? Like, we already have a recruiting team that they know how to go out and hire practitioners, train them, manage them all virtually, you know? So we've been preparing for this day for 10 years, I feel like. And so I thought, man, maybe that's our next step. But I was worried because there's so much demand and the wait is so long to get into a therapist. I thought, well, surely there are no therapists, that everyone is employed and maxed out, and like, there just must be no people. We have a shortage of licensed counselors and therapists. So I said, all right, HR team, go put out a job ad. Let's just see if there's people out there that will come work for us, and like what we have to pay them, and kind of figure out how we'd have to price it to get our margins in the right spot. And what we found is there were a lot of people that were like looking for work and loved the idea of working remotely and doing teletherapy. And we had like tons of people just applying and coming in. And so that surprised me. That's not what I expected. Yeah. But that's kind of where we started. And we hired our very first counselor, who's now our lead clinician, and she manages all of our other therapists. And we hired her and we just said, hey, this may or may not work. We're going to just see if we can sell counseling to some companies here in Utah. If they buy it, you'll have appointments. If they don't, then, it was a good experiment. We'll see. And so that's when we started approaching companies and just trying to see if anybody would buy a teletherapy product. So right then we're probably sitting at like, this is probably August, September of last year. And it's still kind of in that section of time where companies are like, whoa, all of our budgets are frozen. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what to do. There wasn't a vaccine available to the public yet or anything like that. So it was actually really hard to sell in that like late summer, early fall timeline. And it was super discouraging because we had like a product and we like launched our new platform in a matter of weeks. I think all in all, we were like 8 weeks in before we said, hey, now we've got this new app. Here's what it does. Here's how you can use it. And it was pretty. We
were one of the early subscribers too, and it was a handful of meditation and yoga videos to start out. And of course, the library and the services have evolved significantly.
Yeah. Yeah, you were there. And it's like a good looking MVP, right? It's not like a clunky, ugly thing. So I was like really pumped about our product. We had a really great UX designer kind of help us build out our first version. And so it didn't really move. Nothing really happened. I remember we finally sold our very first deal. It was for a company of 100 people. We basically gave them all the content for free, and we're just selling them like a handful of therapy hours. It was like a $2,000 contract. And we just needed somebody on the platform. We're like, okay. And we sold that, and they started October 1st. And their program has gone really, really well. And we've just been releasing new things the whole time they've been on and seeing more and more engagement as time's gone on. But I just thought, man, if every deal is just going to be like $2,000, we're going to have to sell a gazillion of these. Because I sold $20,000 and $30,000 massage events, like a one-time event where like the hospital's like, we want, 10 massage therapists every day for a week. I would sell these huge contracts that were just one day. And here we're selling a whole year contract and it's like $2,000. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's going to take us like, there's no way. The company's just not going to survive. So I still at this point am not confident in what we're doing, that it's going to be viable, that we can get to profitability. And I'm still feeling like really discouraged, but powering through. Right? I'm just not going to give up because I'm like, for me, I am running for my life. I'm like, this is survival for me. My team members, they can go get other jobs. They're perfectly, marketable people. For me, I've spent 10 years building it. My house is on the line. My children's ability to do anything, or maybe go to college someday or anything. So basically I'm in this mindset of like, it's fight or flight. And I'm like, it's adrenaline all the time. I'm working 80 to 90 hours a week. With our one tech person that we brought in, and we're just trying to build as fast as we can. So, it was brutal, and I paid the price for it. My health paid the price for it. I ended up getting diagnosed with Graves' disease actually like 2 months ago, because I had sustained that workload for an entire year. So that was a good lesson for me. It's like, okay, you can't do that and expect to not pay the price in your health. But if I had it to go back and do over again, I would make the same choices, and I would be like, okay, I'll suffer a little bit, but I'm in remission. So I've been taking care of myself for the last couple months, but yeah, I'm going to stop there and see if you have any questions or questions.
I'm enjoying listening so much, Amelia, and all the intricacies of this story, and just your spirit to never give up. I think that, some of the things that are standing out to me that you mentioned is, as an entrepreneur, learning to fill your gaps. Like, you're consistently out of your depth all the time. 22 years in, we've grown our organization to a place we've never been in 22 years. We just brought on a brand new book of business as well. And not that we haven't done that in the past, we have, but nothing quite of this size before. And you're consistently out of your depth as an entrepreneur or a leader. And you have to be willing to say, I'm going to figure out the resources I need, to fill my gaps from a knowledge and skill set, standpoint, and figure out how I solve these problems. Your art of the pivot, by the way, was perfect. Just, sitting down, brainstorming, what do we have? What are our core competencies? What are our capabilities? What are we good at? What do we like to do? Where can we make money, right? And then, pulling your team and your clients to try to figure out what's of value to them and what can your team help fulfill, right? Very, very good, lessons there on potentially needing to pivot. And most of us at some point, you have to pivot in your journey along the way. You have to figure out that, hey, my current model, well, maybe it's sustainable. It's not like really crushing it, and how do I take this thing to the next level? And generally that's going to involve some sort of pivot. So really, really great, advice there on that whole thing. It's interesting that you said, again, this for me is, I think, one of the things that are often missed when it comes to entrepreneurship and leadership, and that is that you took the time to grieve. Like, you took the time to just say, this is, I'm not feeling okay, and this is tough, right? And I'm gonna be open and vulnerable about that, and I'm gonna take the time, take a week, whatever it is, right, to just step back and say, this really sucks, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So,
and you got to be able to just dust yourself back off and get up.
Anthony Castro actually asks, and that's a really good question. He says, so while you were grieving, how did you pick yourself up and move forward? What was the turning point?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to identify like the specific point or thought, but it was just like, one of my board members always say, like, he says, there's the days the dog eats you and the days you eat the dog, like, which is such a funny thing. But he's kind of coached me through that. He's like, there's going to be days you get eaten by the big dog, right? Like everything goes wrong. And he's like, you need to take that time and like, be like, yeah, it sucks. And sometimes, most of the time that's a day. Most of the crappy things that happen, you can like process through in a day or two. You know, this was a whole week. It was devastating. But as far as like getting up off the ground and pushing forward, I just got to the point where I was like, okay, well, my choices are I can sit here and wait for the world to turn around and hope that my business comes back, or I can be in the driver's seat and see what else we can sell. And if we can't sell anything and we fail, then we're in the exact same place we're in right now. So it was just that kind of realization that I was like, sit and wait for life to happen to you, or you can try something and you're in no worse a spot if it fails.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, hopefully that answers Anthony's question. But even my board didn't think we were going to make it. They were like, oh, already like researching like the steps for bankruptcy. And they're like, there's no coming back from this. Like, you guys are going to run out of cash and the business is going to close. We've all lost our investments. And I mean, they didn't even really see a way out of it. They were cheering me on like, yeah, good job. Yeah. Go ahead and try some stuff. Let's see. But they were like, you know, in their own private meetings, like, okay, this is the end. Like, here's what we need to do next. And I had investors. They're
probably talking about committing you to a mental hospital or something.
Yeah, maybe.
Let's get Amelia to end this thing. Yeah, but that's the not the funny thing, but the interesting and the sad thing is I literally saw so many businesses and entrepreneurs just lay down and let COVID take over, like just mow over their businesses and their lives. Like, and I think the power of the human spirit to be resilient and to say, I'm not okay with this and I'm going to figure it out. Right. And that's what you've done. And that's who you are as a person, which is super inspiring. So anyways, I interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. I was going to say, I had multiple investors tell me like, I would have given up by now. I don't know how you're still going. So, but like I said, for me, it was like move forward or die. Like, I was just definitely in this survival mindset of like, my whole family and our well-being and everything depends on this succeeding. And so I need to find a new opportunity that we are uniquely positioned to fill, where we can move quickly and get back up to, you know, profitability and revenue as fast as possible. So, I'm just, Amelia won't hold my beer.
Hold my beer. Just watch. I'll show you, right?
Yeah. So at this point, we've got our first little account under our belt, which actually looks like Paul Shin is tuning in, and he actually sold that, and we were both like happy about it, but like so sad that it was like, that was a lot of work to sell a tiny $2,000 deal. And if I had just looked at what we were experiencing then and said, okay, this is the way it's going to be, like, it's a failed business, I would have missed out on a huge opportunity, because a lot of it was just the market climate. Like, companies were just holding onto their cash super tight. They weren't ready to spend on anything. There was so much uncertainty. And if I'd have given up then, I would have never known that, like, just wait a couple more months. And then all the companies are going to be saying, wow, we need a mental health solution. And people are going to start looking for it. And they're going to, it's going to be the number one benefit of, the next year. So I just had to wait a little bit longer. You're in this tunnel and you can't see what's ahead of you, and it's so dark, and you just have to keep taking those steps. So then what happened next is we had kind of a breakthrough with one of our broker partners that we'd worked with before, Diversified Insurance here in Utah. Super awesome people. They're so much fun. And they really liked our product and got us in front of some really great companies. We got connected with Lendio, and they wanted to sign, Venify, and they wanted to sign. So all of a sudden, starting in like November of last year, it was like boom, boom, boom. We like signed all these contracts all at once. And I was like, oh my gosh. And they were bigger. They were way bigger contracts. I was like, oh my gosh, like, this is a thing people want and people are willing to pay for it. And if we can get like these 5 companies in Utah to do it, like, I think we can get people outside of Utah to start signing up for it. And so then it was like, since then, I mean, now we're in May, I've signed like 2 pretty significantly sized contracts every month. And every month they're getting bigger. It's like, oh, that's my biggest contract ever. Oh, that's my biggest contract ever.
That's awesome.
So that's been really fun. So I have been doing all the sales basically since October. And then we just hired our first sales rep. He's 1 month old. He's been with the team 1 month, actually. It's just hit his 1 month mark. And so I'm coaching him, and I'm still doing, like, I'm managing all of our partner sales still, which are coming through brokers. And so they are pretty big deals. And then he's managing everything else that's inbound and outbound. I'm speaking at a conference every month, or we're sponsoring an HR conference every month. We get a significant amount of leads from that. And what I've kind of realized is just like employers right now are they're starving for solutions. They're like, our team's working from home. They're feeling disconnected from each other. They're feeling disconnected from the company. Morale is low. We don't have tools and insights into how they're doing. And then like mental health is just the biggest concern right now. And it's not going away with a vaccine. We're not going to wake up after everyone's vaccinated and then all of a sudden, oh, all of our mental health is in an amazing place and everyone's happy. It doesn't work like that. No. We were already on the verge of a mental health crisis before COVID. We already had, mass shootings and issues with immigration. There's actually like a survey that was done that's in one of the slides for one of my presentations. And it talks about like the top 5 stressors for US adults pre-COVID. And then COVID added like 10 more on top of that. And those other ones were still there. So it's just like this compound stressors. And now they're talking about how we've been in this state of emergency, fear, stress for a whole year, that now that like things are starting to calm down, everyone's just like falling apart. Like we're all in this state of burnout, and there's a name for it. I can't remember what it's called, but yes, we're experiencing these negative effects now just from being in that kind of extended stress for so long.
Adrenaline mode, yeah.
Fallout. So yeah, I mean, I recognize that the need for mental health isn't going to go away anytime soon. And the one huge opportunity that COVID has provided for us is that all of a sudden now everyone is able to talk about it. So there's still stigma and things like that. Like we've had a couple companies that said they didn't want to offer therapy to their employees because it was too clinical. And I'm like, they would rather have their employees talk to just a human that has no licensing, which I think is super weird. So clearly there's still like some stigma out there around, therapy not being for everyone is basically what that comes down to. Cause they're like, well, therapy, that's pretty clinical. I'm like, well, it's talking to someone who's at least licensed to give you the proper advice. So yeah, I think we still have a lot of work to do, but COVID has provided this awesome opportunity for us to have more conversations about mental health, to reduce the shame surrounding therapy or medication even. I've had to take depression and anxiety medication at different times in my life, and it was like super shameful and embarrassing. I felt like I was a failure, like I couldn't feel happy on my own. How broken am I? And now my sweet daughter is struggling too since COVID. Like a lot of teenagers are struggling, and the social isolation was hard, and they're living in this world full of fear and uncertainty. And, she had to go through the same thing. She started a little bit of medication, and she was like, I'm broken and this is terrible. And I'm like, no, here's my experience and it's okay. And so I feel like my calling in life now is like, we need to talk about it, and we need to be open. We need to make other people feel comfortable, share our stories, which anybody on LinkedIn knows that I'm pretty vocal about sharing those mental health stories. So, long story short, we're in this place now where we're closing companies faster than we can ramp up we're growing globally right now. So we keep signing new companies with employees in all these new countries, and we're trying to get people in those countries as fast as we can, and can barely keep up. So we're in a good spot. We're growing quickly. And ultimately, somebody said, Dave Anderson said, will you go back to the other model as as a revenue stream once things open up? And yes, we actually do have quite a bit of massage coming back already.
Oh, nice.
Which is surprising. So it was Teacher Appreciation Week last week, and we got Nurses Week this week, I think. So we are starting to see some of that come back, and ultimately they'll kind of be run as 2 separate kind of business hubs, like one team that just manages everything on site, and then the other team that manages everything virtual, but all housed on the same app. So your employees can book their 15-minute massage in the same app that they use to talk to a therapist or do a meditation video. So So yeah, I think we're coming out of this way stronger and more profitable, more scalable. We raised our biggest round of funding ever. So more investable. So yeah, I think it was a really hard journey, but we're all the better for it. That's how I would say it.
Let's key in on that a little bit. Let's key in on fundraising, because you're here, you're in the middle of, my company just died overnight. I went from revenue to losing 98% of that overnight. You've got existing investors, board members who have invested with you, and somehow in the midst of all this, while you really don't have a tried and true MVP per se, right? You know, you're just kind of figuring stuff out on the fly. You went and you raised now a couple of different rounds of capital. So tell us, I think that'd be really valuable and interesting for the audience here. Tell us a little bit about your formula to do that.
For this last round, or just in general?
Just in general.
Well, I've only raised money with angels, so I can only really speak to that. We haven't taken any venture capital, just angel funds. I love working with angels. They're just so cool because they're just normal people and they're investing their own money. And, you know, most of them are successful entrepreneurs. They have all sorts of like awesome advice and guidance. And it's not all just like the advice and guidance you get from like VCs, because I feel like in general, angels are more in tune with the idea of like, you also have to take care of yourself. You also have to like do what's best for you and your family. And it's not just all, we need a 10x return in 2 years. So they're more well-rounded. That's how I might say it. I mean, like I said, I haven't raised with venture. I've met with many venture firms and I have friends that have done venture. And so I'm familiar with those stories, but I haven't experienced it firsthand yet. We plan to, in spring of next year, raise a Series A, which I'm super excited about. But yeah, in the past, it's just been, you know, my first fundraise was in 2018. We'd actually won a grant called the TCIP grant, which is Technology Commercialization and Innovation Program. That's what it stands for. It's really long. It doesn't exist anymore, which is super sad, but we got a $100,000 grant for our self-service, you know, booking massage on demand kind of platform for businesses. And with that 100,000, we had to raise matching funds. And I'd always thought like the idea of raising capital was really cool, but we'd always been profitable up until that point, and we just had funded the business through our profits and grown in that way. So I was like, I want this challenge. I want to try to raise money. And so I won the grant, and then we had to raise $100,000, and we ended up raising $335,000, which was really awesome, from Park City Angels, Salt Lake City Angels, and angel group in Reno called Reno Investment Group. And that was pretty awesome. And then the next year, we had decided we were going to rebuild our platform in a way where we could deliver any kind of services on site. So this is the fundraise we did right before COVID, at the end of 2019. And that one we raised like, I think it was 600,000, but then we also had a $200,000 convertible note. So it was like 800,000 altogether. And then, so we had a little bit of money when COVID hit, but we didn't have a lot. We had basically run through that whole fundraise and we're about to hit profitability in April when COVID hit in March. So we didn't need to have a huge pile of cash anymore, because our projections were all that we were going to go back to self-funding. And that isn't what happened. So then we got a PPP loan, which was super lucky. We ended up getting a second PPP loan, which is awesome. So most of the first one was forgiven and all of the second one should be forgiven. And then we didn't know if we were going to get those loans. So the board was like, if you can try to raise money, like try to raise money, like just take it if people are willing to give it. And so in the beginning, when I started raising money, after the pivot, it was kind of like, you're like, this is my pitch. This is my story. This is what we're going to try to do. But at the same time, you're like, I don't know if I can really do that. You're like fingers crossed and you know, meeting with investors. And the first like 2 months of fundraising was really, really hard. I think I had like 100,000 out of 1 million committed after 2 months, and it was all family. It was like friends and family. And I was like, man, I just don't think I'm going to be able to raise money. And then as I like started closing these notable accounts here in Utah, all of a sudden we started having traction. People started asking me to come speak and to interview me and tell the story of our pivot. We just started getting so much PR. And then investors kind of started coming out of the woodwork, and we ended up pretty oversubscribed, and closed our, it's about $1.1 million round. So it was again, if I would have given into those feelings of like, oh man, we're just not getting any traction, this isn't going to happen. And how discouraged I felt. If I would have gave into those feelings, success was just around the corner. I just needed to wait like 1 more month, and then all of it just came tumbling in all at once. So that was kind of my experience.
Very, very cool. Have you found any specific like formulas to success there when you're working with angel investors? What do you think has motivated them to want to align with you and invest in your venture?
Well, investors invest in the person more than the idea. So I had multiple people that wrote me a check and said, I don't care what your business is, but you pivoted and you have this grit, and I'm betting on you. We'll see what the business model turns into, right? So just understanding that, especially with angels, they're really investing in you as a person. And I felt a huge responsibility to them because they had invested in me with Incorporate Massage, that I was like, they gave me their money. Like I owe it to them. Because I had people say, well, why didn't you just shut that company down and like transfer everything to a new company and set up Zenovate totally separate and different? And I was like, that's not right. That's not the right thing to do, because we built this platform with their investor dollars. We did this with their money. Like this is theirs. And so even though legally I could have done it, it didn't feel like the right thing to do for me. And I think a lot of my existing investors saw that, and they were, impressed and saw me push through that. So I think, my advice is to be authentic and ethical and, act responsibly with their investment dollars. And then they see that, and, because they really are investing in you more than your idea.
Yeah. Good guys don't always finish last, right? Yeah.
We'll see. That's still TBD.
You're doing great. You're on the right path. Your trajectory is fantastic. So we've got just a couple of minutes left here, Amelia. This has been so fun. I've not talked much, this entire hour, because it's been so enjoyable just to listen to you and then learn from you. I'm sure that the audience has felt the same. Do you have any final nuggets, pieces of advice, in the last minute or so here that you want to share with the audience?
Yeah, I mean, if there's one thing I could send everybody off with, it's just that you have to just put one foot in front of the other and do the work. Like, even in times of darkness and discouragement, uncertainty, fear, what makes it possible for me is just being able to say, like, yes, I recognize those feelings, and I recognize this is hard and it's discouraging, but just don't look at how far you have to go. Don't look down, guys. Just look one step at a time. And just, even if you look at just sales, for instance, I mean, I spent the last 6 months where I made sales calls every single day and sent sales follow-up emails every single day. And we have a system of 4 calls and 4 emails, and we send a video in the first email. Like I was doing those things, and I go through my task list and I systematically go through them, and it can be discouraging. It's redundant. It's, exhausting. But I have faith in the process that, like, if you just do the work and you follow the steps, you start to win. And so that's my big advice, is just don't look at how many steps there are to get to the finish line, just to focus right in front of you and trust in the process.
So such great advice, and you kind of mentioned this in the middle here of the conversation. And just to go back a step, and this has happened to me in my own career, and I know a lot of people that it's happened to, and sometimes it's not because something massively negative or disruptive has happened. Sometimes it's because something positive has happened. And that is, you have to be willing, when you become a more seasoned entrepreneur, you have to be willing to step off your pedestal, and you have to be willing to say, you know what, like, okay, so I'm not going to be this person that's just kind of got the purview of everything, and and I'm not in the day-to-day operations, and I'm not doing the execution and all this kind of stuff. And then circumstances come along, right? Whether that's COVID or whether it's massive growth, like in our current situation, like I've had to just dig my hands back in right now, and help the team, and like, manage some projects and help with, onboarding new client accounts and whatever it takes, right? And so you have to be willing to say, like, it's okay. Like, yes, I've been in these really great, situations in the past where I felt really good in my role, and my role was, while it was challenging, I didn't have to do these minute little, minutia of execution kind of stuff. You have to be willing to say, it's okay, I'll go back to that. I'll do it for the time period that's necessary or beyond, right? So we're out of time, Amelia. Again, what an awesome hour. I really, really appreciate you, spending this hour with me, sharing your story, sharing your insights, all the things you've learned over the years. It's been massively valuable to me, and I know it has been to the audience. Thank you for the audience that's joined us. Just a quick reminder, next couple of weeks, we got Trina Limpert, CEO of Rise Next, Dan Beck, co-founder of 401 Go, and Christy Holt, founder, CEO of Vibonics, that will be on TechBeat here over the next several weeks. And then if any of you are going down to LinkedIn Local this afternoon, I will be there with some of our team from Nexus IT sponsoring the live stream for LinkedIn Local at Tribe House in Pleasant Grove from 3 to 5. So see you all there. Amelia, thank you. Thank you, audience. Everybody have a wonderful day.